how predictive is your data to match to television viewership? And I guess it would be against the current currency.
Against Nielsen ratings. Yeah, it is predictive. We've done many studies. Um, we've found that more so the data should be used to amplify Nielsen data rather than predict it. It can be used to predict it. It's often predictive. However, what we've really found is that when you look at a Nielsen score, you don't really understand how suitable that audience is for the advertiser, and you don't really understand how involved that viewer is. Are they going to be a viewer over time, or are they just viewing because there's a lot of celebrities on the show that day? So are they committed? Are they really passionate about the show? And if they're buzzing about it, that's not always enough. Sometimes they're saying very bad things. Controversy can be good, but especially in this day and age where Nielsen's measuring thousands of networks, the fractionalized viewer has made the sample set far too small on Nielsen to be relevant. So we started off trying to predict Nielsen data, then we realized, you know what, I think we've got more valuable data ourselves. So let's just focus on the millions of people that are talking about every show throughout all the cable channels, or if they're watching on Hulu or YouTube or wherever they're watching. We want to measure with their reaction. So,
are you able to show ROI? So you're saying that the ratings, are showing one form of behavior, but you're able to show a much more engaged form of behavior.
Right.
How does that play out in terms of ROI?
Right. So ROI for advertisers is mostly a function of measuring the before and the after. So they do an ad, very often, a year ago, several years ago, you wouldn't see much of a reaction in social media. The networks have been doing a better job of helping advertisers, and the agencies are helping them do a better job of creating a response in social media. And these days you'll see almost every ad and almost every network has some kind of social element that they're tying in, whether it's their Facebook link is just up on the screen or something more involved. So we can measure that, the new fans essentially that they've created on a week-to-week basis, and the new fans that they've created from this campaign when it's a good campaign. Now, often there's no response, but that's often very telling. So ROI can be measured in many different ways. Often we'll just say, let's look at this show in particular and compare it to the entire industry. So you've got your Nielsen scores, you know what they are, but compared to the average show at this time slot or the average show across the entire primetime universe, what's the overall involvement of this viewer? And it turns out if they're about 25% more involved, plus saying 25% more positive things, that could mean the Nielsen score is undervaluing the show and the viewer that they're delivering to this advertiser by a significant amount. So those are some of the ways we measure ROI for clients.
What about the portion of the audiences out there, particularly the television audience, that may not be as involved in social media? Do you have a way of capturing their online behavior that's not social media?
Well, everything we capture is in public media, but what we're finding is that audience that's less involved in social media is starting to grow. The sample's becoming much more representative, and that was one of the biggest criticisms of this type of research in the past, is that great sample size, we love it, but too many young kids out there. And of course it is still skewed, but what we're finding now is that with millions of people all out there, and the biggest growing audiences are not kids anymore, they're much older. It's in the 40s and 50s. It's across gender, it's across race, so it's really starting to be much more expansive. One way we can make some of our studies more representative is by weighting the comments from different demographics a little bit more so. So which wouldn't be that dissimilar from taking a traditional approach, now applying it to an online listening metric. And we love the approach because online listening is very unbiased. We're not asking questions in any kind of way. We're not providing a box that they know is there. We are simply listening to what people have to say, and when the people that speak about a certain product or company or TV show tend to be pretty passionate about it. So it's a very valuable and unbiased way to measure.
With all the data that you're getting and the different audiences that are participating, have you done any segmentation analysis against the data?
Absolutely. So one of the latest technologies we've come up with this year, invented this year, we actually call audience technology. And we've applied it to the TV industry first. And what it is it's bucketing groups of people based on a common interest. So, for example, if you go online at any point on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you are, and you say, loved American Idol last night, we're going to know you're an American Idol fan. We're going to put you in that bucket over long periods of time. Or maybe Maybe you just said, maybe you liked it on Facebook, or maybe you followed it on Twitter. These are all actions that can be tracked to you, a username. So if later you're, 6 months, a year later, you're talking about how you just bought your Prius and you're a big fan, we know that there's a connection between American Idol viewers and Prius. Now that you're just one person, when we do this across millions or hundreds of millions of people, which is what we're doing now, it's very powerful. So that's the kind of thing we use for targeting on television. We know that you're an American Idol fan because you did something a year ago that told us that. So now suddenly, if you're reacting to the new Toyota, we know there's a connection there. We know that if you're Toyota, you want to advertise, you're probably going more for American Idol in your advertising. So that's a good example of how we can bucket an audience based on any action they take in social media. Knowing who they are in terms of demographics, that's becoming more available every day. We know where you are more than ever now, based on which social network you're on. Mobile has made it a lot more powerful. Location-based information. Gender, there are pretty easy ways to do that. Age is more difficult, but whatever people are filling out in their profiles is generally public. So we spider profiles. We get our hands on whatever we can. So the richness is really starting to grow, and that's started to happen over the last 6 months to a year, more than before. In the past, we only had enough profile data to do very small-scale studies, and these days it's becoming massively available. So audience analysis is an increasingly important part of our business.